Literally a day before President Trump was inaugurated, we took out the back page of the Washington Post front section and we published an editorial there. And my big ugly mug is on the picture, is on it, taking over half of it. But it said, hey, we're the ADA. This is who we are. This is what we stand for. And this is what we can do to help make America healthy again from an oral health perspective.
So we'll just get into it today. So today we've got an awesome guest on, and this is just, I don't know, this is what to me has been really cool about just having a podcast that I guess now more than just a couple listeners must listen to it. Because randomly I was like, oh, we got someone followed on our Facebook page, right, and liked it. And I saw that it was Brett Kessler on there, and I was like, oh, I recognize his name. He was like the president of the ADA before. That's really sweet. So I was like, well, I'll just DM him and slide into those and ask him if he wants to come on the podcast maybe, and thank him for liking our page. And he was awesome about it and said, yeah, let's do it. So today we have him on, and we wanted to talk to him about, I probably talked to him for like 5 hours about stuff, just with his experience being the president of the ADA, which is really cool, and just his journey through dentistry and doing startups like we did, but doing them at a different time. He also did a startup with his wife, and we did ours together too, well, kind of. And so we figured we could just go on with him and kind of just talk through some of that stuff. So thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks. Welcome.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me. And yeah, I caught your randomly on my feed. I saw a podcast post, something about it, and I was like, oh, this looks interesting. And like, wait, they're from Colorado. I'm from Colorado. We should explore this and see where it goes. So
cool.
Here we are.
Facebook must be working. It's shooting stuff out to people. That's what we know. Okay.
Yeah, that is your one job, Eric.
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
The algorithm's working for sure.
The algorithm is working.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. Well, yeah. So now, when you were the president of the ADA, what was the time? Is it year long usually?
Like the terms?
It was
like
a year as president-elect and year as president. And that followed 4 years as a trustee, basically the board of directors. So in my third year, I decided to run for president. In my fourth year, I was in the campaign all year long, going around the country talking about things that I thought were important for the future of the profession, and ended up winning the election and didn't expect that. And then I spent the year with Dr. Linda Edgar. She was the president. I was president-elect, and then I took over in 24.
Oh, so that's how that. Okay, so you literally you're campaigning like you're a politician, right? Like, is it literally very similar?
Yeah, it is like running a campaign for public office. I had to raise a bunch of money. I had communication professionals, branding professionals, coaches.
Oh my gosh.
Campaign experts. I had pods of people here in Colorado, as well as around our district in the Southwest here, as well as pods of people all over the country who were working on my behalf. And it was quite an experience. Something I never ever thought I would do. Never thought I would. I mean, it was never in my future, in my cards. But I'm sure glad I did it. It was a really tough year, but it was probably one of the best years of my life.
Oh, I mean, just indirectly through osmosis on it, I would imagine it's tough, just because, we always just scroll on Facebook and stuff like that too. And I feel like you're just in. That's a position. It's like being the president or the head of anything, right? And it's like, no matter what, you're going to get shit on a lot, right? That I think just comes with the territory. Did you have to take any courses or classes, or did you get any good mentors that kind of taught you how to get thick skin if you didn't already have it?
I've had coaches my entire career, and amazing mentors throughout my journey as well. But yeah, it wasn't just me, and I never considered myself a politician. I considered myself a leader, but I had to play in the politics game because that's how things work. And especially with a lot of the drama that we had to go through last year, the way that I led was I was very clear on my core values, my mission, my vision. I was very clear on my goals. And how they related to the same with the organization, and every meeting that my board had, we read the core values, the mission statement, and the vision statement. So we were really clear on what our guardrails are and what our purpose is within the profession. So when the drama came up, it's just like, well, does this fit? Does it not fit? And that was how we answered things.
Was there any frame of mind or anything you did when, when having to deal with either people saying something negative, or if you ever were on like any social media and saw people posting, maybe not to you, but like in general, like, yeah, the ADA sucks, I'm not joining it, it's bad. Did you ever, was there any kind of like mindset or frame of mind that you had when dealing with that kind of stuff? Like, did you put it into a certain perspective?
Well, that was probably the most disappointing part of the year, is colleagues and people that I thought were my friends, especially some here in Colorado and some other prominent personalities in the social media world, would attack me personally. And that, it was really disappointing. And so, my whole, I don't know what you know about me, but, I got sober 3 years after dental school, and I had a pretty bad addiction, and to combat the addiction, I had to do a lot of mindfulness training. And so I've been sober for over 27 years, and this mindfulness practice has been going on that entire time. And, the treatment for the disease of addiction is mindfulness, and the treatment to grow my leadership is the same. And so I've been really good about, trying to keep as steady as I can, and keep clear on, what I'm supposed to be doing and how I can show up as my best self. There were times where it didn't go so well. There were times where it was tough, and I had to, just kind of retreat a little bit and reset so I can, come back stronger. But that's just life. I'm human, and, but I distance myself from the toxicity because it served me no purpose.
Yep.
It served the organization zero purpose, and it would just drag me down. So, narcissistic behaviors, the keyboard courage warriors, they can scream in their echo chambers. I'm out in the real world doing real stuff, trying to drive the profession forward.
It's the same way, probably with us, and maybe, I don't know. We can talk about this in a little bit, but with you doing a startup in 2003, right? When we did ours in 2017 and 2019, right? That's when like reviews were huge, right? Like,
oh yeah, everything online.
And it was where you were still at that point, at least, where like not every dentist was doing reviews, so like you could definitely differentiate by having 100 or 200 or 300 5-star reviews. And to your point, like, yeah, you could go through and just like ruminate on like one star review that a patient has, but it's like, what is that? Is that really serving your purpose of like trying to help people and grow your business and see more people? Like, I know for me, I remember because everyone, you're always waiting for that first bad review, right? When you start up, and it's like, it's going to happen at some point, right? Like everyone, there's some people who are like, I don't have any bad reviews. It's like, yeah, everyone gets one. It's just how long it takes. And I remember for us, it was probably like 6 or 8 months in, right? Because we had it pretty well gatekeeped of like, let's make sure we ask for, and doing it the right way, but making sure we're trying to grow that way. And
yeah, don't ask the angry people.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And so I remember my whole team knew this. I was like, I don't want any 1-star reviews, right? And my assistant one day, I just saw her like walking through the hallway, and I could tell she was kind of quiet. And I was like, okay, either is she like quitting? What's happening? Like, she just seems a little off. And she like, it took her a while, and she's finally like, Dr. Appleseed? And I was like, yeah. She's like, can you come in here? And I was like, okay, great. This is another person leaving. And so I was like mentally prepped for that. And she was like, no, I just looked online and someone left a bad review. And I remember being like, oh no. And like, I probably overreacted on it, right? A little bit more than I should have. Because I think when something like that happens the first time with anything, you kind of freak out, right? Because you have this, you put this on this big pedestal, and you're like, oh, it's the end of the world, right? Like, I got this 1-star review. Now everyone's going to see it, and no one's ever going to choose my office, right? And that's kind of where my head went. The review, luckily, was a negative review, but it also like wasn't that good of a bad review, meaning like it made the person who said it sounded a little bit crazy. So like it didn't sound too legit. And then, guess what happened? Like, I still had the same amount of new patients coming in. Everything was fine. It didn't make that big of a deal. So yeah, I mean, I agree with what your thoughts were on that. It's like, I think you just need to distance yourself from that, because otherwise it doesn't serve any purpose, and you just spiral.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I would say that's really
And-
hard because it's not like everyone's a crazy, person like in dentistry. It's like people you said, like your friends, your colleagues, that people that you respect, and like people say like shit, you're like, geez, like that's a different
than-
layer of like
yeah,
thick skin.
Than
Yeah.
someone you've met once and
Yeah.
and you said you took Delta Premier, but you didn't take their specific one with it, and they're angry, right? Like that's that's a little bit different. Yeah, that's fair. So one cool thing that I saw when I was doing some research on you on ChatGPT, right? Because that's how we do background checks now, and all that is through ChatGPT. Was I saw that you got to testify in front of like Congress over some different topics. Can we just talk a little bit about that? Because I thought that is something that probably 0.001% of the population has either gets to do opportunity. I don't know what the right word is. I don't know if it's an opportunity, but gets to do that. Can you tell us a little bit about like what you got to testify for, how that all worked?
Sure. So this is long before I was in leadership. I was just a dentist in Colorado. I was on the board of Metro Denver Dental Society. Just kind of doing my thing. I was the well-being person here in Colorado, and I had a program in my office where I would treat people who were in treatment for drug and alcohol abuse and recovery. And this treatment center would get them off the streets, would get them sober, feed them, clothe them, give them vocational training, get them to work and stuff like that. And I would fix their teeth for free. It was part of my, giving back through my practice. And from there, Metro Denver Dental Society got a call one day from a reporter asking if they knew anyone who treated meth mouth. And this is the mid 2000s. And so they called me up and asked, you know anything about this meth mouth thing? And I'm like, yeah, I've been treating it for years. Would you want to go on TV? I'm like, no, absolutely not. Okay. I'm trying to build this, this high end boutique aesthetic practice. And I wanted to be known as veneer guy, not meth mouth guy. But my mentors, I had a recovery mentor, said, Brett, it's very rare that that the media ever portrays recovery from substance abuse in a positive light. And here's an opportunity to show what you do to help these people. And it's amazing, and my dental mentor, same thing. It's very rare that they put, dentistry in a positive light. And here's an opportunity to showcase how you're changing people's lives through your dentistry. So consider it. So I went on TV, did it. It was amazing. They focused on my patients. 4 or 5 other outlets here in Colorado did similar stories. One of those stories got picked up by CNN and went national on headline news. 19 minutes after the hour, there's Brett upside down doing and someone in recovery from meth abuse, and that's how the ADA caught wind of me. And so they called me up and said they were pushing a bill to fund treatment for people in recovery, specifically around methamphetamines. And you're an expert. Would you come to Washington, D.C. to testify before Congress on behalf of this bill? And so I got to do that. And it was, you get little memories in your timeline, what's, important and stuff. And I was about 10 years sober at the time. And, 10 years prior, I was ready to kill myself. I was literally thinking death or life, not let alone be a dentist. I was never thinking, but here I am, the most influential organization in my profession considers me an expert and wants me to help in front of the United States Congress, pinch me. And so I did. We didn't get the bill passed. Nothing really ever happens in Washington. But that's really how I got launched into leadership on both the state level and the national level, because I came back to Colorado and I was viewed a little bit differently. I wasn't just the well-being guy anymore. They saw me as, with a lot of leadership potential and asked me to join their leadership ladder. And so the next couple years, as I'm going through the chairs of the Colorado Dental Association, testified many times before the local legislature. Even I still do it here because we have an obligation. We're all governed by laws. Our dental practice acts are our laws, but there's no dentists in Colorado that are in the legislature. So it's our job to educate the legislators on what is best practice for the community. And that's really what we have to do. And someone has to do it. Someone has to step up. So, but as president of the ADA, I was really, we for the first time, the ADA took a very proactive stance on our legislative agenda and our advocacy agenda. And literally a day before President Trump was inaugurated, we took out the back page of the Washington Post front section and we published an editorial there. And my big ugly mug is on the picture, is on it, taking over half of it. But it said, hey, we're the ADA. This is who we are. This is what we stand for. And this is what we can do to help make America healthy again from an oral health perspective. And in the biggest media day, the second biggest media day of the year in the world, and we made a big statement. And I followed that up with a letter to President Trump and every single member of Congress that was sworn in that week. And it really set our tone that, hey, we're here to help. We're going to fight you on fluoride, but we're going to help in other areas. And, and that led to several, meetings and public statements with Congress, with the White House. I got to go to the White House and testify there and help shape the MAHA report, the EPA, the FDA. It was the World Dental Congress, UN. It was just a dream come true to stand for, science and best practices. And, and we knew there was going to be a volatile political environment with, Kennedy getting, put up into his role and, and all the things they did to, challenge science and get rid of the CDC infrastructure, especially around oral health, the cuts that they were proposing around research, even the student loan caps that they're putting on now. It's there's some and the access to public health, the Medicaid block grants, are really going to compromise the care that we'll be able to give as a profession. And so I keep asking, are they really making America healthier? I don't know. It doesn't seem like it. But I had to stand up for it. And I was proud to stand up for it because I really believe in it. And I had that opportunity to do it. And I took full advantage of it every single day.
I could just listen to you talk for
That's,
yeah. The whole time in my head, I was like,
I could learn so much.
Yeah, I know. That is so cool. That's awesome. Was it scary? So, like, going back to when you first had to go, right, when you kind of blew up with the whole meth mouth thing and having to go to Congress and stuff like that, was it very structured and regimented, or was it like when you went into it, you're like, oh my gosh, I have to be like best behavior, right? Like you're going to your dental school interview and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm like really nervous. Or once you did it, were you like, oh, that was a little more casual than I thought it was? Like,
yeah, I was a public speaker by then. I was an expert on meth mouth, and I had given many presentations around the country on basically the dental management of our patients who are in recovery or who may be in substance abuse. And it was kind of a niche that I still haven't seen fully taken up yet by other people. So I was comfortable speaking, but yeah, when they say I'm going to Congress, I called my mom, I called my dad, and look, Mom,
yeah.
and they're asking, is it going to be on C-SPAN, Brett? I'm like, I don't think so. But it's not like I was in front of the chamber addressing like the Prime Minister of Israel would address there was probably 25, 30 people in the room, a couple Congress people, but most of them were congressional aides. And, and it was, like I said, nothing happened, but it was an amazing experience because, in every year since then, I go to Washington, D.C. with all of us at the ADA, all of our leaders here in Colorado. We go and we meet with our legislators there and talk about things that, would make, dentistry better for the communities. And so, I learned over the years that, they're just like you and me. They put their pants on the same way, one leg at a time. And they're good people. And I remember my brother, was going into dental school. So the year before he started dental school, he came with us to Washington, D.C. and we were testifying in Diana DeGette's office. And we met with the congressional aide, her head of healthcare policy, and she was, we were talking about the things that we were talking about. And, then we left, we shook hands. It was all great. A year later, we came back. My brother was now in dental school, so he didn't come with us this time. But we're meeting again in Diana DeGette's office. And I'm talking about, the issue du jour, and the congressional aide stops me. She's like, wait, you were here last year, right? With your brother.
Yeah.
Weren't you? And I'm like, God, you remember. They remember everything. And most of Congress, it happens through their staff and through their people. And this was a healthcare policy expert working on behalf of Diana DeGette. Because Diana DeGette is an amazing legislator, but she's not a healthcare expert. So she relies on people to do that, and they filter everything up and they don't forget. So it really does make a difference. And I could tell you, when we met with Dr. Heidi Overton at the White House this year, and she's the deputy director of domestic policy for the U.S. She meets with Trump probably 2 or 3 times a week. And she's a physician, a surgeon, and a master's in public health. And we met with her. We had a half an hour scheduled to talk about some of the things, because, the CDC was dismantled, and we wanted to make sure that the mission of the CDC was still going to happen, because there's all sorts of things we need the CDC to do for our profession and for the safety of our of the public. But at the end, I said, I'm not here to talk about fluoride. I know where you guys stand, but I do want to talk about areas where we can work together. So it's principles over personalities. Okay. And, we're not Democratic. We're not Republican. We are, we need people from both sides of the aisles to be champions on our behalf. And, we know, that you guys talk about, trying to reduce sugar ingestion amongst the public and reduce the, ultra processed foods. It's killing these are things that we do every day. We talk to our patients about this. She's like, you do? I'm like, yeah, we're dentists. Sugar causes cavities. Oh, that's like, yeah. Oh, great. You're right. Yeah. So
pretty sure we learned that in dental school.
How to brush properly and don't eat too much sugar.
Yeah.
And she was thankful for that. It was kind of a funny moment. But then she's like, okay, I know you weren't going to talk about fluoride, but I want to ask you about fluoride. And does it really need to be in the water? And so I went in through the science of why it does need to be in the water. It strengthens the tooth over the lifetime, makes it less problematic towards getting cavities, much lower risk, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, well, why can't you just be topical? I'm like, well, it doesn't get incorporated into the development. And she's like, oh, okay, I get it. So 3 weeks later, the MAHA report was published, and, all the noise around fluoride was boiled down in that report to 2 sentences. Okay. And I thought it would be pages and pages of anti-fluoride nonsense that we hear and I've been fighting all year. It was 2 sentences. One sentence said that there is a study in China that says if there's fluoride in the water, that the kids had a lower IQ. However, it was a low quality study, and the fluoride level was double what's here in the US. That was one sentence.
Okay.
Second sentence was the EPA is evaluating the safe levels of fluoride and will report back throughout the year. And a few weeks before, we met with the EPA to help them, get the data, all the data that we have on the efficacy of fluoride, and then let them make their own, discussions. So that all that noise, I felt like we were able to distill it down to 2 sentences. And how amazing an opportunity that is for dentistry to step up.
Yeah.
And so again, I felt it was one of the best years of my life, because I felt I really got to drive this agenda and make a difference.
Yeah. Geez. That is cool. Mm-hmm. I was like, what did I do yesterday?
What have you done?
I helped put a kid to bed. And then I watched some Olympics. That was good. I did that.
So did I.
Yeah. That was pretty good. No, I think that's really cool.
Let's talk. Can we talk about the Olympics for a second?
Yeah.
Can we talk about that? Because we're Colorado. Colorado Springs is where the U.S. Olympic Training Center is. And another thing I got to do this year is I got involved in the Academy of Sports Dentistry. And I met the people who are involved in, access to health for our Olympic athletes. And we're developing a program right now, because the Olympic athletes, they are working, they're aspiring or actual athletes, but they are working full time to become an Olympian, right? So they don't have dental benefits. So they're looking for dentists around the country to help them with their oral health.
Oh, wow.
And so we're developing a program right now that will give a whole network of dentists who are willing to provide for these athletes and aspiring athletes. How cool is that? And so after the Olympics are done, I'm going to go down to the training center and meet with them to formalize this.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
I'm not president anymore, obviously, but this is cool things that I get to do. And and I love the Olympics. A huge Olympics fan, and can't wait for the 2028 LA Olympics. And I'm trying to get on the dental team for the 2028 Olympics. So,
Neat.
So
That's
going
really
back to this,
cool.
right? Like, I think we're always pretty inspired by people when you hear and you're like, oh my gosh, like how do they do so much, right? Is there anything in terms of, and you said you've done a lot with leadership and like mindfulness and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Did you kind of just become like in a good way, like a yes person to stuff, right? Like you just say, there's an opportunity, I'm just going to say yes and jump into it. Like, I've always been interested in people who do a lot of different things, right? Like you were ADA, now you're working with Olympians on this. You might be a dentist with the next Olympics, right? Like, do you seek out opportunities a lot? Do they come to you? Like, I'm always very fascinated by how people have kind of those like extraordinary lives.
So there's a lot in those questions.
Oh, yeah.
I'll try and boil it down to a answer that makes sense. So, early on in my recovery, when you're in addiction, your brain is just trapped and it's very limited because your sole purpose is to get more drugs or more alcohol, and you get through the day, whatever, so you can get to that fix. And once I got better, I saw like this unlimited opportunities in the world and for me, and I wanted to impact the world in a big way. And, first it started as I wanted to be the best dentist I can possibly be. And I was already on track with that. I'd studied with Dawson and, the Pankey Institute and I opened up my own practice from scratch in 2003. And I did that very, very strategically and very carefully. And it was not the norm. Where I opened the practice in Northeast Denver, my colleagues would say, that's a horrible neighborhood. You do not want to be there. And I did it mostly fee for service. I was on with one insurance, but we quickly got off that. And that was basically a cash scratch start. And I had a very clear vision of what I wanted to do. And so after that, it turned into, like I said, with the advocacy stuff, because I'm clear on who I am, what I want to do, I don't say yes to everything, and every 5 years or so, and I'm in the process of this right now, every 5 years or so, I would write a vision statement of what I wanted to do in these next 5-year periods. And, right now I'm in a blank one, and I've been writing it and developing it because it's a new chapter for me. The last vision that I put in, it was 2018. It was the year I turned 50. And that was the year that my wife and I decided to sell the practice. We were getting kind of burned out. But really, let me back up. It was, I started asking myself, I'm halfway through my life. My plan was to live to 100. Okay. What do I want to do with the second half of my life? What do I want to do with the second half of my career? Where can I make a bigger impact? And my first half I made a pretty good impact, but I was, seeing, just not midlife crisis, but midlife questions. And so I sold the practice that year. That was the year I decided to run for the board of the ADA. That was the year I celebrated 20 years of sobriety. That was the year that I did my first Ironman race. And it was, I got to race at the Ironman World Championships in Kona, Hawaii. So it was a heck of a year. But in that statement, I said, I wanted to maximally give back to the profession that has given me so much. That was my vision for how I wanted to be professionally. That's why I decided to run for the board. That's why I decided to run to become a trustee. Never, ever thought I would be president. But with that vision out there, every decision I have in the moment, am I bringing myself closer to that vision or moving further away from that vision? And sometimes it was moving further away, and I should have said no, and I meant, I said yes, and you live, you learn. But I kept saying, these opportunities would just present themselves, and I would ask, is this fit in with my vision? Does it fit in with what I want to accomplish? And, when I decided to run, it was, that was part of the reason I did it. Maximally contribute, give back to the profession that has given me so much. And that was the impetus for that. So you know how you learn what you really like to do is you do things you don't like to do. And as you get older, you start focusing it into, I don't like drama in my life. I don't like wasting time. I want to live every day to the fullest and not get drugged down with stuff that I don't want to be doing.
If you like our podcast, check out Alex's newsletter, Just 2 Minutes. It's full of great advice, which makes sense considering it's her thoughts and not me sidetracking her every 2 seconds. You can subscribe at coupleofdentists.com. The link is in the show notes. Now, back to the pod. No, I mean, that's fair. I mean, it seems like it's just like one word that I kind of thought of when you were explaining that was just like intentional, right? Like you have an intention and you don't veer from it. I think it is easy for us, a lot of us, right? Like, especially practice owners, like a dentist in general, but even more so if you're a dentist and a practice owner, is like everyone writes their vision, right, and their mission statement and stuff like that. But then like life happens, and there's a patient that bothers you here, or this situation happens, and this situation happens, and then you can kind of veer away from that full, like that vision that you had, and it's really
it's
easy.
It's hard to be consistent. Like, it really is.
Discipline is the key thing, and it's not linear. It's all over the place, and if you fly a plane from LA to New York, it's not a straight line. It's always tethering left and right, and that's the trajectory. Even when we, and looking back, the practice was amazing, but when I'm looking forward in it, I remember that first day. You guys did the same thing. You unlock the door and you peek your head out and you look left, you look right. Is anyone going to come in today? God, I hope so. It was scary.
Well, the one thing you did, Alex, that was good too is, if you're doing a startup, you're going to have downtime in the beginning, right? Like there's some people on social media that are like, I opened a startup and I had 400 people lining up on the door. That wasn't our situation. I don't think that's most people's situation. Mm-hmm. And then you always have to take that stuff with a grain of salt anyways, I feel like. But Alex, the one thing you did was, I'll talk on her behalf, right? I tend to do this
what
a
did
lot.
I do? Yeah.
No, it's a compliment. Is when there was downtime, it was trying to perfect the systems and working on all that stuff. So there really wasn't. There was downtime in terms of like, I'm not doing production and seeing patients, but it really wasn't downtime. You were using like that valuable resource of time in general to try to be ready. So when you get busy, you have the systems in place to do it. And I think that's what helped a lot with the practices, is like when it did get busier, you weren't learning how to do the system to how to deal with busyness. You already had that figured out.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
agree completely. And it wasn't production time where you're building your bank account, but you're building the foundation to grow. And we did that a lot, because we had a lot of free time, and we sat and we strategized, we developed systems, we tried to decide and figure out how can we do things better. We read books and discussed the books. We grew leadership. We developed the mission statement for the practice, and it was all part of the team effort. And most of my employees stayed with me for a long time with that, because they felt part of the growth that they were contributing to it. And that's what I think is missing in the profession right now. We've got a high burnout rate amongst dentists and hygienists. We've got a huge workforce shortage. We've got, and I attribute it to the benefit system. It has not kept up with the cost of living, and therefore we can't offer our team the career opportunities that we were able to offer them even 10, 15 years ago, because it's just not there. And so now it's a job. We treat them as employees and not family, and they treat us like, it's transactional. We used to be able to, I started practice, graduated in 95. So I started practicing after my GPR in 97. But back then, you hire a dental assistant and a hygienist and an office manager, and they'd work with you for their lives.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right? That doesn't happen anymore.
I know. That would be.
We haven't been able to offer that.
I know. We've always wondered that too. And this is where we've talked about it before, is it probably was harder on me because I have more of like a natural tendency to like need to be liked, right? That's just how I am. And so like when I started it at first, I was like, oh yeah, everyone's gonna come in and we're gonna be a family and they're gonna stay forever and it's gonna be great. And I think part of that is for two reasons. A, I like people and I want them to like me, and B, I also don't want to deal with having to like rehire people all the time. So some of that comes from laziness, right? Too, of like it's easier if everyone just stays around. But there were a few times where like I would think, oh, this person's going to stay with me for 10 years. And then randomly they would just leave. And it happened a few times, and it sucks because I never wanted to get calloused to it. But Alex would tell me, she's like, there's part of that is part of business, right? That's just going to happen. And you do have to deal with it. But yeah, I always wondered too, like when we talk to some dentists and they're in like South Dakota, right? And they've been practicing for 30 years. They've had the same staff for 30 years. So I always wonder too, it's like, I don't know. I would love to get your perspective on this. Do you think that's happened? This is going to be another really loaded question, so we can break it down a little bit. Do you think that's happened just on like a culture shift on people being a little more transient, right, in general, or do you think too that maybe dentists nowadays, or younger dentists, however you want to say it, new practice owners, are maybe more focused too on like the business aspect and like the profitability of their practice, and so they maybe hold some people to higher standards than in some small towns they used to? Like, is that a factor too, where it's like, maybe Mary, who's been there for 30 years, is really nice, but maybe she's not really good at like collecting or anything, but the dentist doesn't track anything, so he doesn't really care and doesn't know. Versus like nowadays, you've got like, we graduated in that time frame of like the entrepreneurial dentist, right? It was like the mid 2010s. You hear about these guys who opened up 10 practices, made $20 million, and everyone was like, I want that, right? I just want to grow practices, grow a cluster, and sell them, right? That was, I feel like a lot of our friends went down that road. And when doing that, you hold people more accountable, and maybe not in the best way, or maybe some ways in better ways, but I feel like we had more turnover then because of that. I don't know. That was long-winded again. Sorry.
Yeah, I would say yes to all of that. I mean, there were, dentists who want to have that, that stable, easy, don't change anything. All my needs are met. I may not be the most efficient practice, but patients like me in the town, and I've got my team, and everything seems to be working. That's part of it. And small town rural dentistry, you hear that a lot. But then, a lot of the dentists, we're seeing a big consolidation of practices going on. And I think that's happening in all the demographics. My age, I'm a Gen Xer, the baby boomers for sure, because they found out that they had that, that practice, that the technology wasn't up to date. They still have the carpet from the 70s, and they feel their practice is worth millions and millions, and they get slapped in the face with reality that nobody wants to buy that, and so they sell it to a DSO or a large group. And after years of bashing the DSO and the large group, they end up doing that, which is what I see. But the consolidation, has a ton of advantages with efficiencies and scale, right? You get a lot more leverage if you're going to buy more stuff. When we sold our practice, the group that we sold it to started a 5 practice group practice, and but I just say it didn't work out so well that 3 of the practices were just sinking, and we were kind of carrying the load, and and they started cutting things, and and then I left after it wasn't fun for me anymore. I did what I was supposed to do there, and I moved on. And but I see amazing private practices still thriving, and I see private practices that are really struggling, and I see DSOs that are thriving, and I see DSOs that are really struggling. So it's all over the place on how attuned you are to the business. But my philosophy was always grow your people and you will grow your business, and treat them, they are an extension of you. And if if you want to grow, that's the way to do it, unless you are a super person where you could do everything all the time. But I don't see that very often. And so the teams, and I feel though that the the dental office that attract the best teams are the one that are very clear on who they are and how that person can fit in with the team so they can get their personal fulfillment of contribution as well as, contributing to the practice. And so when you talk about the ones that, just want to, play Monopoly and get 10 properties and then sell those properties for maximum profit, it leads into the topic of private equity in healthcare. And, and I feel that it's dangerous. It's absolutely dangerous because private equity's goals are to produce multiples.
Yep.
Yeah.
Dentists' goals are to provide the best care they can for their patients. Right. And so there's a problem there. And so Dr. Rich Rosado, who's the current president, he was with me last year as president-elect. One of his big things he got to do last year is develop a dentist autonomy statement that basically says that the doctor-patient relationship is the sacred cow in the profession, and everything that we as dentists do are done in the best interest of improving the health of the patient, not in the best interest of the bank account of the practice or the DSO, blah, blah, blah. And we're hoping that this white paper can be a standard for every dentist as they enter into a contract as an employee, that this is, this is how I'm going to act, and I can't be fired when the office manager says I should have done a crown here instead of a filling.
Yeah, or why are you not doing more inlays and onlays versus DOs? Yeah.
Right. And that happened to me in the late 90s when I was moving from Michigan to here. I was doing some temp work and I was at a large DSO, and they loved me day one. They're like, "Oh, Dr. Kessler, it's so amazing. We wish you can stay. The patients really loved you, blah, blah, blah." Second day, the office manager told me the same thing. Third day, same thing. But she said, but you might be doing too many crowns. And it was a capitation plan back then in the late 90s. And so, and I'm like, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "Well, for instance," she pulls out a chart and she pulls out the x-ray. Back then we had x-rays that, we had to shine light through. She pulls out this x-ray and she's like, "This tooth right here, 14, that could have been a filling." And I looked at her and I said, "What dental school did you go to?"
Yeah.
And I got fired immediately.
Yeah.
Okay. And I was just temping. I didn't have to work there the rest of the week, but they wrote me a check and told me to get the heck out.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing that young dentists are facing right now. And we're hoping that, this is one lever that we can help, to put it back in the true ethics of our profession, and our dentist colleagues, especially our young ones, get to practice with autonomy in the best possible way.
Yeah, that all makes sense. I mean, we kind of went through that. I mean, Alex, didn't have as much of because you didn't really ever go like the corporate. No. You worked she worked as an associate. Or you did that 1 year after graduating.
Yeah.
But that was a pretty that was just a.
It was a good
PPO profit or PPO practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No one was really forcing anything. It was good.
And then you
kind of good experience.
And then you've always been the one that probably wants to do stuff on your own, right? So then that's where you went through and were like, buy a practice, do startups.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, okay. I think we'll have to split this into two because we're already like 40 something minutes in. And I was like, oh man, we should need to do a whole nother episode on like doing a startup with like your spouse. I feel like that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, probably.
But I wanted to ask you one too. And this was another piece because you're an expert in this field and you kind of see the global picture of dentistry. And this is one thing like we've kind of talked about randomly too. And it was in dental schools, right? When you graduated, right? Versus to when we graduated to now, it is skewing more towards female dentists graduating, right? And some of this, it's not meant to sound like not PC, and I'm not coming at it from like a bad way or anything like that. But I think it's a good thing, right? Like I think the most qualified person should get through no matter what, right? And I think that's what most people's goals are with it. But we also know that there's a difference between, say, men and women in the workforce, how long they're in the workforce, right? Women having to have children. There's other like external pressures that a lot of them have that sometimes male components don't have. Did you guys find any issue with more females graduating from dental school? Maybe you have the same amount of dentists going, but did you guys find you had the same amount of like dentist hours available? Or do you feel like there's a need for more dentists because you could make maybe there, and like I said, I don't know, I don't have a study, I don't know, but I just
No data to back this up.
yeah,
Like,
but just saying,
yeah.
like, I would think if, you know, you're a woman, you're like, I want to have like 3 kids, I want to have 4 kids and do all that. There's going to be times where you can't work, right? Or you may say, I'm going to step down then because I want to spend some time raising children, and right? And I know that's more of a traditional way of doing it, and men do it too. But regardless, have you guys found that maybe there's the same amount of dentists graduating, but like there's less dental hours, so there's still like a need?
We all know Eric wants more friends. If you're enjoying this episode, share the podcast and then tell them to DM Eric so he can hit his quota of 1 new friend per day. Now back to the episode.
So first of all, there's way more dentists graduating than when I was in school. So I was in the era of contraction. So I was a first year dental student. We had 60 people in our class, I think 62. The 4th year class had 130 people in their class. And so back then, you know, we realized, the profession realized there were too many dentists in the economy at that time. And as a result of that, when I applied to dental school, there was 1 slot per applicant available. And so it was really not that hard to get into dental school. And there's no way I'd be able to get into dental school today. Okay. Yeah. So that's first. And we had, I don't know, 7 or 8 females in my class. Wow. And one of them I married. And very grateful for that. But Gina, so she went on to become an orthodontist. And I remember during my GPR, you know, one of our mentors said, you know, try to talk her out of going to orthodontics, because he said to her, well, you know, most likely you're just going to want to be a mom and this will be wasted. And, you know, my wife is not someone to say anything bad. That didn't go over too well with her. I saw the proverbial middle finger go right up, and I was like, okay, here we go. And, you know, she ended up going to Michigan for her orthodontic training. And it was, you know, and so, but then as we started, you know, we have 4 kids. And when we opened the practice, we had 2 toddlers. And we had 2 more while we were in practice. And, you know, and she did, you know, ask herself a lot. You know, I don't know if I want to be a mom or be a dentist or be an orthodontist. And I always said, you know, we got our kids, and, you know, you'll only be a mom to these kids at this age now. You can always bend wires. And but then we were able to structure, part of the reason why we wanted to be owners and why we, you know, did a startup, is we were able to structure all of our family goals around, you know, at first in our business to support that. And so I would start work 2 days a week at 7 a.m. and I'd go till 3. And so my wife would be taking the kids to their school or daycare, whatever, you know, she would start at 9, and then I'd get off at 3 and I'd go pick them up and drive them to their activities, blah, blah, blah. And then we got a nanny, and that really helped out too. But when the babies, you know, the next 2, when they were babies, we brought them to the office with us. And, you know, and we scheduled nursing time, and I'll tell you, my staff, my team was amazing. They would help us take care of the kids. And, you know, our biggest production years was when the kid was sitting in a swing right out in the waiting room. His patients were coming in because no one said no.
So instead of like the, you know how some people have like their therapy dog? You can get like a therapy baby.
And just hold this baby. Yeah.
Yeah. Or if a patient's getting angry, you just hand them the baby and they're like, okay, I'm good.
Yeah. And then, but it was kind of cool because the kids went to school in the neighborhood, and they'd come home from school and they'd walk into the office like they owned the place and give me money for ice cream, Dad, and blah, blah, blah. And then we have we had these big wooden beams in our office, in our front office, and it was like a loft kind of space. And so in back of one of the beams, you can, all of their growth lines are there, you know, like, how tall are you this year? And we, you know, put their names and their, you know, and their height at that time and the date. It was kind of cool. And it's still there. I just sold the practice, but it's still there. So it was great that we were able to do that. But, you know, and so with females account for 54% of the graduating dentists now. There are 7,000 plus dentists graduating into the field every year. So women are going to work differently than men because of, you know, many will have families, and, you know, and I can't have the kid. I can't do it physically, right? I'm a man. I just don't have the plumbing. Okay. And, but women, you know, will take time and shorten their their work time during those years, but they'll work longer later and be more productive later. So is it really, and everything that I did was trying to look at everything in the long game of things. And there may be short-term pains, but long-term, nothing is really, nothing's really changing as far as the amount of work hours. It's just, there'll be some times where in the career where there'll be less. So, and then with that, so we're graduating 7,000 dentists every year. We're also only graduating 7,000 hygienists every year.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. And, we have, pretty much every, I guess, strong general dental practice, one dentist would have two hygienists.
Yep.
Right. And so we've known for a long time that we've been, under training the number of hygienists that we need in the market. And we're just not getting any movement there to open up new programs. But here in Colorado, we were able to double the number of hygienists we're training, and this is the year that they start to graduate. So we're going to start to reap that, the benefits of having more people in the workplace.
Oh, that'll be nice. Just being in Colorado, that was the huge challenge we had.
Oh my gosh, yeah, we could not find a hygienist, and if we did, it was out of our price range.
Well,
right?
yeah, Colorado, I feel like got hit really hard with the cloud dentistry thing. That's not just saying cloud, but any platform that allowed more temp work. I remember when we would be on like different forums and stuff like that, it was like, it just for some reason, like I said, maybe Colorado being more of a transient population and a younger population, it kind of, I feel like with like traveling nurses, you kind of had that like traveling hygienist like thing. And so many of them, it became really challenging because we'd say, okay, you want $80 an hour, right? But like I'm getting reimbursed $60 an hour for a pro fee. And then it runs into that whole thing of like, okay, well then do you feel like you have to like push adjunctive services on people, right? Like, because it's and you don't want to do that, right? Because like you're saying, you want to do what's right for each patient, and then it creates that it does create that kind of conflict or tension between what do you do, and so I'm glad to hear that we're graduating more hygienists. I know one of our assistants at our offices is trying to apply to hygiene school too, so I've been very like, please do it. We want you to go. Right. So that's good to hear. I'm glad to hear that we're solving that issue or trying to.
But around the country, it's the same thing. I don't know a single state where they're saying we have way too many hygienists. That's not happened. Okay. I think Pennsylvania has 1,800 short in their system. I mean, it's really obnoxious that how bad it is. And we can't, quota requirements on how things are, how training happens is they're very stringent on that. They're not opening it up. We're not getting any help from the Dental Hygiene Association nationally. Colorado, we've worked with them so great. And we've got independent hygienists here. And they do serve a need and a niche that we dentists don't. And they have helped with access to care. But then you look at the temporary job market, and they basically found a way to make the same amount on 3 days a week that they were working on 4 days a week with zero responsibilities. They come in, they're mercenary hygienists. They don't have to, make, care calls and, to fill the schedule. They don't sharpen instruments. Many of them don't even, clean up after the rooms. It was, being as a dentist in that era, it was like, wow, they get to, do all that and we're kind of stuck. We have to do it or we, do it ourselves. And that wasn't productive either. But my key indicator in the business part of my practice and the hygiene department, yes, I wanted them to produce and, but it had to be produced ethically with, not pushing things on. Everything that we, suggested for our patient was, we felt that we believed in it. But the key indicator wasn't their production. The key indicator was how much I was diagnosing in their chair and actually scheduling. Because, so many times, I worked with some of the most amazing hygienists. I was so blessed to have that. But again, I was able to, filter out the ones that didn't jibe with my practice philosophy. And, and I would I would walk into a room and say hi to the patient and say, "Oh, Dr. Brett, I guess I need a crown." And the picture's right up there and the patient's telling me they need a crown. It's that's what I felt the value was. And so many people get hung up on this. Well, the hygienist is asking for $80 an hour and we're only getting 64 for a pro fee reimbursement, but we get zero reimbursement for our dental assistants. Okay. Yeah. But yet we don't complain about them asking for more money. So it's like, it's a paradigm that really we have to get over and look at where can the opportunities be, with the hygienists, if they're asking $80 an hour and that's what the market's bearing, it is pure economics, supply and demand.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. It's textbook. And so if that's the game that we're in and the economy we're in, we got to find ways to leverage that $80 an hour, salary expectations, because dentistry is really hard on our bodies, but hygienists have it even harder. We have assistants, they don't. Okay. And they're doing everything on their own, reaching, and their bodies go bad and they know it. And so to get to work 3 days a week and make just about the same amount of money with no respontations, and I get to dictate my schedule. I mean, I would do the same thing as a dentist,
right? Yeah. I totally get that. Yeah. Okay. So just to end it on something interesting, because when you talked about earlier wanting to be like the dentist.
Are you saying that wasn't interesting?
No, we got down to hygiene, and I was like,
we better pivot before I get started on hygiene.
Yeah,
I'm a little opinionated about stuff, so we better stop.
I think you said something, and I was like, I'm gonna cut off Alice before. Yeah.
We'll take this offline. I don't want to get canceled here.
Right. No. So. And it's actually running up on time. It's not just that.
No.
But no, with being the Olympic dentist. So do you know, like, if you were to get on that committee or do that, are you hanging out in Olympic Village for like a month or whatever, and you're just working on people when they break something?
Like emergencies?
That has got to be so. That's like being like. That's like doing instead of being like the Nuggets, right, dentist, you're almost doing like temp work, right? You're like the Olympics, like and doing that. That is so cool. So what would that entail? Just because I'm curious.
I'm going to put a plug in for the Academy of Sports Dentistry, because they're the ones that are gonna run this, and and they've already got some infrastructure in place in Los Angeles, so they're already planning it, so it's amazing. Wow. But think about it, all the countries in the world are represented. Dentistry is not accessible in many parts of this world. And so these athletes, they come and they get their dentistry done while they're here in the Olympic Village.
Yeah.
And so the dentists that are working there, they're busy and they're doing stuff. It's not just trauma work. It's actual, let's get them healthy work. It's one of my dreams. That's my next big dream in the profession. What I want to do and experience.
That's so, yeah.
Because I love
the
so much.
What's cool too is it's nice too, and the positive impact that can have when you're say you're competing in, I don't know, a third world country or some country that doesn't, like you said, have access to that kind of care, or a lot of people don't. If they can come here and experience that, then they can bring back that to their country, right? Even if they can't do it, it's just I think it just helps show that.
And even like the publicity behind like showing that oral health is part of your entire body, and to be a pro athlete you need to take care of your mouth too. Like that is huge, right? And just having that at the forefront for everyone else to see is really important.
I feel like you guys have a big marketing opportunity based on what she said. You guys could, or whoever, the American Academy whatever, could definitely run with something like that.
But think about biohacks that we're doing, in dentistry. We're shifting, maybe this will be a topic for future discussion, but we're shifting the focus on dentistry from surgical based, meaning I'm drilling live tissue to get paid, to the management of chronic disease based. Yeah. And so we're managing inflammation. If there's inflammation in the mouth, there's inflammation in the body. If they're not sleeping well because of airway issues, they're not going to be performing at their maximum level. I mean, some of the differences, like in skiing, it's in the hundredths of seconds. Okay. If that person didn't get a great sleep because they've got airway obstruction the night before, I mean, imagine that, and their whole body is inflamed as a result of the cortisol release that this person is under stress wise. They're never getting to heal. And so this is the kind of work that we as dentists can help do, and I'm trying to get them to incorporate that into, the NFL, the NBA. I mean, these are the highest level athletes in the world.
Yeah.
And we can help them in ways that most physicians can't. We're looking at things that most in the medical field don't see. And I really see a convergence of medicine and dentistry being an essential part in the overall well-being of our patients.
Well, even like,
and it's exciting.
I was watching the Olympics last night, right? And they brought Shaun White on, right? Who was the, huge snowboarder, right? Back in the day that when we would watch it, when we were younger. And he said, they asked him, they said, like, how do you, because I think like Chloe Kim was about to go on, and they asked him, they said, like, what do you do to prevent like being nervous, or how do you make sure you're performing well? And he was like, it's all routine. I will listen to the same song. I'll eat the same food. I'll say the exact same thing to the person that my coach. I will do things in the exact same way, because then it's just like another day. And so I go down on my run, even if it's like actual like you're doing your official runs on the Olympics, right? And it just feels like another normal day. And so if you imagine if someone like that had like a bad night's sleep, or they had some other issue and it caused, I mean, that would screw up your routine, and those people are so routine based. So
right?
I think that's cool.
And over the time that we hopefully develop this network, that we can help our athletes, so they can shine in their moment, but also they can live these amazing lives, both before, during, and after their opportunities to perform. So dentistry has this huge opportunity to help improve the overall health of our patients. And it's exciting. In the next 5 to 10 years, it's going to be a major parts of our practice. And that's what I've been pushing for.
That's awesome.
So we can dig deep on that next time.
I think
that'd be
cool. Got a lot to talk about with that.
Yeah. I think we've already got like 3 more episodes lined up.
Lots.
There's a lot of cool similarities between what you guys have gone through and kind of what we have. But so I mean, thanks for coming on and going through all that. That was I feel like we learned so much. I was just like sitting there with like my jaw open, just like, But thanks, and we'll have to get you on again soon so we can go through the next topic.
Awesome. I'd love to. Great to hang out with you guys. And Eric and I met last week. Alex, it's great to meet you too. And looking forward to a beautiful friendship. Let's see where we go.
Awesome.
Great. Thanks so much.